Hey everybody, special segment of Outdoor News Radio. We're actually recording this for video too, so if you like what we chat about here, go to Outdoor News, go to our social media channels on Facebook, Instagram, a YouTube channel, of course, and you can actually see this segment and my interview with my next guest, Mr. Tony Peterson. Tony, thanks for joining me, man.
Thanks for having me, Rob.
Yeah, it's good to see you. And I would remind folks, Tony has a blog at outdoornews.com, and he writes every week in the print edition of Outdoor News, so you can check him out in the print version. Call us at 800-535-5191 to subscribe, or do that at outdoornews.com. Tony, it's good to see you. We've got some results of the turkey hunting season. Maybe before we talk data, Spielman and I talked data a little bit about it earlier, but how did your seasons go? Did you watch a lot of birds drop this spring?
I watched enough of them drop. It was a good spring, man. I got my little girls out for the first time hunting, largely because we had nothing else to do, and we had enough time to go get them comfortable with the shotgun, and killed a few birds myself. One here at home in Minnesota, one over in South Dakota, and it was a good spring.
What part of South Dakota was that? A Merriam's bird?
You could call it that. If you look at it, it sure looks like one. Where I killed it, kind of in the central part of the state. I'm sure, if you were a stickler, you'd call it a hybrid. I really don't care that much. I wasn't far enough west to say for sure that it was a Merriam's, but it's pretty white on the tips of the feathers.
Tony, I've got access to some hunting land that I pheasant hunt in South Dakota, not too far east of the river, maybe an hour east of the river, Aberdeen, west of Aberdeen, that country. And my wife was saying, I think they've got some turkeys out there too, Rob. You should maybe consider that. Have you ever hunted turkeys in eastern South Dakota? I mean, I wouldn't necessarily associate it with turkey hunting ground, but maybe with the corn advancing farther west, it is good turkey country.
It can be if you got some trees.
Yeah, you got to find the trees. That's a trick, huh?
Yeah, but there's some pretty good opportunities. I think if you wanted to hunt there, you'd probably have to draw a tag if you wanted to shotgun hunt, but they have a over-the-counter archery tag that's good pretty much anywhere. So it kind of depends where you want to hunt.
Okay, interesting. Well, you mentioned a lot of sitting around this spring because of obviously the stay-at-home order, but that is reflected in some of the data from the turkey season. Spielman and I talked about it, but I wanted to get your reaction to it a little bit. It looks like 63,000 people went out and hunted this year, totally blowing the top off the previous record, which I think was in the mid to high 40s. We killed almost 14,000 birds. That's 500 more than the previous record from 2010, which is about 13,500. Not particularly surprising, I think, from some of the conversations we've had earlier this spring. Your impressions?
Yeah, there were more people out there, especially if you were hunting public land, but it's a weird thing to see that it takes a global pandemic to get more people out experiencing turkey hunting. Because, for us, it's sort of just this thing you look forward to so much, and it goes by so quickly, and it's just this neat outdoors opportunity. But, I'm sure some people are griping that there's more people out there overall, but the way the season is structured now, you can get the woods to yourself. And, it might not be the first season anymore, the way they changed it. I know we were pretty heavy front loaded with hunting pressure. Yeah. But man, I was hunting late season with my wife, and we had all kinds of bird action. And so a lot of people, they want to get out there and get done right away before even fishing season's coming in or anything like that. And really, if you pace it out, or you pick a time when not everybody wants to be out there, you can get out there and have a great hunt and not be crowded out.
Well, we're seeing from the data that hunting periods C, D, and E were all actually down a little bit from last year in terms of harvest and in the number of hunters that were afield. That's because so many more took advantage of A and B, and they had that ability to go out and hunt those early seasons. That's what so many more guys did, and the kill in those seasons and the participation was just through the roof. As a result, like I say, those middle seasons down a little bit. Hunting season F was actually up. That season ran a few days longer, I believe, and then it also allowed anybody with an unfilled tag to continue to hunt. So go figure, there was a fair amount of pressure during that period also. So I guess to your point, if you want to get out and hunt a lower pressure period, like that C hunt, still pretty early, still a lot of opportunity there without question.
Yeah, and the thing about the first season is if you want to have really terrible hunting for turkeys, hunt the first season when bad weather comes in, because it's so early. If you get a cold, windy, snowy type of situation, which you can certainly get, then it can really shut them down and make it difficult. But if you start getting into that C season and D season, you're not getting that anymore, probably. And you might get a little more consistent weather. And some of the birds have been educated and some have been killed, but you can have really good hunting that time of the year.
Well, I'm glad you got out and had a good experience with some of your family, as well as a lot of success for yourself. It also sounds like perhaps the DNR is going to do a hunter survey, see if they want to alter things. I guess I'd be surprised if they alter it much for 2021. There were just so many different factors that came into play this year. I think it's hard to draw too many conclusions. This is Outdoor News Radio. Rob Drieslein with Tony Peterson, recapping the turkey season a little bit, talking about some of the topics that are maybe a little more timely. A lot of turkey hunters out. You've seen a lot of fishermen out, a lot of anglers on the docks, getting out and fishing while you've been out with your daughters or with other folks, Tony?
Yeah, yes and no. Memorial weekend was busy, predictably. The weekend after just wasn't for us where we were. And so it's kind of ebbed and flowed a little bit. But I would say, there's a fair amount of people out. But again, we live in a place with so many lakes and so much water that even when there's a lot of people out, it really doesn't matter. You can find your own little place to fish. And so I personally, being somebody who hunts a lot of public land and fishes a lot of places that are kind of popular, I like seeing it, because I'd rather see more people out than fewer.
I know Javier Serna had a piece in this week's print edition where he talked to some bait shops and talked about they're having a hard time keeping inventory in place. They're selling a lot of stuff. They're not necessarily selling some of the gear that we normally would associate. The general clientele is maybe, fishing 201 or 202, guys buying a little more advanced gear. There's been a real run on, Snoopy rods, but that kind of entry level equipment, it sounds like, this spring.
Yeah, this is an interesting one, because we always look for these sort of recruiting events, and we saw this one time in the archery industry with the Hunger Games coming out, and all of a sudden all these kids wanted to shoot bows.
Okay.
And with Brave 2 coming out, and then it lasted a few years and died down. And this current pandemic situation, you see people place a little higher premium on food they can get in the wild, and just the experience of like, what the heck can I do outdoors and not be stuck inside? And so this is sort of one of those catalyzing events that we have once in a while that gets people out. So it really doesn't surprise me that some entry level stuff is ending up at the cash register with the people who probably are taking this up right now.
And as for fishing, how's that been going? We had a kind of a cold, week to 10 days right around opener there, but it's certainly warmed up. What are the fish doing, and what are you fishing for? You kind of a bass guy?
I am an equal opportunity fisherman. We're hitting smallies and largemouth pretty hard right now because it's really good. But this is the time of year that is just my absolute favorite here in Minnesota, because so much stuff, so many different kinds of fish are shallow. And, the walleyes are still biting really good. The crappies are up, panfish are up. And then, the bass thing is on. So it's just a fun time to be out. You can do a lot of sight fishing, and you can get into multi-species and, not be anywhere deeper than about 5 feet of water.
Seems like it's been an exceptional crappie year. Seen a lot of photos of big slab crappies coming out of the lakes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's been some good crappie fishing so far.
Good, yeah. He says with a smirk on his face, which would suggest he's gotten into them himself a little bit. A few minutes left here. I thought we should talk a little dog training. You've become quite a dog writer and an outdoor communicator with your podcasts. Where you talk about dog training. You work with Tom Dokken a lot. I'm going to write part of my column, I think, next week about what I'm hearing is that a lot of people home during the pandemic sitting around and saying to themselves, gosh, the place could use a dog. I'm hearing from some kennels that they've never had as many calls as they have had this spring. Mm-hmm. Consistent with kind of what you're hearing out there, Tony?
Definitely. Yeah, this is the interest in getting a puppy has never been higher, I don't think. I mean, it's just, I think people they were stuck at home. And if you own a dog, or if you've owned a dog, it's a really good excuse to go outside and do something and enjoy yourself and work with that dog. And I think people were reminded of that, being stuck inside a little bit more. And so the demand for all dogs, not just sporting dogs, but, rescuing dogs has been really high this spring.
I want to call some rescue places and find out, if from what I'm hearing, it's kind of low inventory. It's probably not the best term to use for dogs is inventory, but nonetheless, it sounds like, it's probably been a good time for animal shelters to move, some of their animals out to find them homes. Talking with our mutual friend Tom Dokken a little bit, he said he's also getting a lot of folks asking about obedience. That you've got folks sitting around is like, well, I've been going into the office, and for 8 hours a day the dog has been home, and I haven't realized how poorly trained the dog is. And now that I'm home, I'm realizing he's kind of obnoxious, and he could use some obedience training. So Tom said there's been a lot of interest in that too.
Yeah, that's an easy one to notice, and it's an easy one to overlook. A lot of people go get a lab or a German Shorthair Pointer, and they dream about the days in the field, right? In the duck blind or pushing up roosters in the cattails. And all of that is just built on obedience, and a real big foundation of obedience. But it's not as flashy. It's not as fun. It's more fun to train double blinds and long distance retrieves and that kind of stuff. But really, these dogs that we're into in the hunting dog community, they know how to hunt. Like, they already know when they hit the ground. They know they like pushing up birds or they like pointing. What they don't know is they need to be able to, listen to you and be still and heel and come in when they're called and all that stuff. And so the obedience thing is huge. And, like Tom was kind of referring to, when you're stuck at home with your dog and you try to work with it more, you see just more holes in the game. And those are almost always related to just basic obedience.
Just a minute left here, but this is prime puppy time. It's a time of year people, they want to have a puppy now, not dealing with potty training, that sort of thing, our house training when it's winter. So this is a great time to have a puppy. So one key thing is all the obedience you're talking about really kicks in the first couple weeks you've got that dog home. Those are really key times, right?
Yeah, there's a window there with puppies, whether you bring your dog home at 7 weeks or 8 weeks, that are so important. And a lot of people don't think that puppies are ready to learn. And yeah, they're not ready for a 3-hour marathon on Saturday, but you can build in 20 or 30 half-minute lessons in any given day on sitting and staying. And, puppies you can treat train with really easily. And working on that stuff as soon as you get that dog home will make the rest of your life with that dog so much easier. Because if you miss that window, you're working in reverse, and it's real tough.
Yeah, no, good advice. Tell listeners a little bit. You've got a podcast or two of your own where if they want more information on dog training, they should check that out, right?
Yeah, I host Hunt for Real. That's all big game pretty much, and a lot of public land, a lot of bow hunting stuff. But I also host Sporting Dog Talk, and we have dog trainers, dog breeders, canine researchers from academia, all kinds of people who share a common bond of love for dogs and understand how to train, understand what to look for when you're trying to pick out a puppy. And it's so enjoyable because there's people that are so knowledgeable and love to talk about dogs. So if you're into dogs, if you're training a dog, if you're thinking about getting one, it's just an awesome resource.
Check that out on iTunes and other podcast sources. Right, the name one more time.
Sporting Dog Talk.
Sporting Dog Talk. Check it out. Well, Tony, thanks for spending a few minutes with me here. It's good to see you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
All right. Check Tony out in the print edition of Outdoor News. Let's break. We'll have more of the show after these messages.